Hi, my name is Shayna Conde, and this is another series that I'm working on called Accessibility Check-In, where we talk about accessibility within the hospitality space, travel, all that stuff. So today, I want to talk about my experience as somebody that is chronically ill. I have an autoimmune disease called Neuromyelitis Optica, Bing. Think of multiple sclerosis. It's like the sister of multiple sclerosis. And I am a full-time travel and food journalist. It affects my life consistently. Let's dive in. So first, let me give a little breakdown as to what the symptoms of this autoimmune disease look like. So if you're familiar with multiple sclerosis, it is an inflammatory disease that attacks the spinal cord and brain specifically. It just kind of eats away at it. Sometimes it makes it difficult to walk sometimes, to use the bathroom sometimes, your memory can go, your cognitive skills can go. And for MS, it is a consistent building, right? So it's always managing, trying to calm those kinds of things down. Mind you, my autoimmune disease is a little different than that. So if I am misrepresenting or misspeaking, somebody from the MS community, please correct me in the comments. But here's my autoimmune disease. Not multiple sclerosis, neuromyelitis optica. So more specifically, neuromyelitis optica goes after the spinal cord, sometimes the brain, but the optic nerve, which is why the optica is a part of that. No, I'm not wearing glasses because of this autoimmune disease. I had vision problems long before that. But I had one huge onset back in 2016. I was actually hospitalized December 31st. 2016, because my T1 through T5 lit up like a Christmas tree and I couldn't walk at all, couldn't poop. They had to fill me up with drugs and they would not let me leave the hospital until I pooped. It was a running joke. It's kind of funny now. So how does this affect my traveling? So for one, physically, right? I have been very fortunate in that most of my mobility has come back and most of my sensation has come back because everything from my sternum down was cut off. The lights were out. So it took about a year for me to regain as much mobility and sensation as possible while now I'm doing great. I still can't feel a lot of my legs. So I tend to bump into things. I tend to trip on things. Sometimes stairs can be really hard depending on and for me, my biggest trigger is stress. So the more stressed that I am, the more likely it is that different things will flare up in my immuno system. So stress management is big for me, but also when it comes to just being able to walk around. So accessible cities are huge for me, not just cities, but like cities as a whole, but also accessible destinations. To make this even more specific, I was considering living in Lisbon a while ago. Now, if you've ever been to Lisbon, you know that that is a city that is constantly on a hill. Everything is either uphill or downhill. And I could not manage that city at all. Mind you, I'm pretty athletic. I'm very athletic. I can run, jump, skip, all of that. That took a year's worth. Jesus, that's brave. That took a year's worth of physical therapy to be able to do that. But that being said, I don't want to put my body through that kind of stress consistently. So I didn't move to Lisbon. Now, currently, I am living in Barcelona, Spain. This city is much more accessible than other cities that I've been to, even when it comes to public transportation, walking around town, all of that stuff. But there is still I do still have some critiques. So that kind of gives you a little bit of an idea of what we're talking about here as it comes to mobility. Now let's dive into the healthcare side of things, because that's where the real stress starts to come in. I have to do semi-annual blood infusions every single year. So every 6 months, I have to get hooked up to I have to get hooked up to an infusion machine where essentially they fill my body with a medication that suppresses my immune system so that way I don't produce an abundance of B cells that will attack and destroy my spinal cord, which allows me to continue walking and doing all the things that I do. So I have to do that every single, twice a year. I was on a medication that had me do it technically 4 times a year, so like 2 and 2. So every 6 months I would get one infusion and then I'd have to wait 2 weeks to get the bookend infusion. And then I'm good for 6 months. I think I'm switching medications now, which will be very helpful because once I switch medications, I would only be doing that once. I would only have one infusion every 6 months instead of two every 6 months. So that would be super helpful. How does that affect my travel though? So pretty much as of right now, one, because I'm trying to figure out where in the world I would like to live in. So I'm not trying to get like, well, now I'm pretty sure that I want to live in Spain. I really like it here. So there is that, but then I'm always looking for a hospital. Not that I need it right away, but just in case something happens, and not just a hospital, I'm looking for somewhere that has a solid multiple sclerosis center, somewhere that has a solid neuro team, just in case something happens. Because if something were to happen to me, I feel the effects very quickly, and moves have to be done pretty immediately, so that way long-term damage isn't inflicted onto my body. So like, sure, if I'm going on like a week long vacation, I don't have to think about that. But if I have like more intensive work trip, or if I'm planning on moving abroad, I really have to do a deep dive into not just where the hospital is, but what teams are there, what kind of MS resources do they have? Do they have an infusion center? How do I get in contact with them? Can I share my previous medical records with them? Do they translate? Does anybody there speak English? There's a lot that goes into it that I have to think about when it comes to moving abroad as somebody that has this kind of chronic disease. Now, because I spent all of 2017 relearning how to walk, run, poop, the works, and even now, while once again I am doing better, I do still need some help sometimes. I do still need accessible amenities from time to time. And because I'm working so much in the travel space, I feel like I have to talk about this. I feel like I have to talk about accessibility, or more specifically, the lack of accessibility within the travel space, because there is nobody talking about this. And there are millions of people with disabilities that travel. Also, accessible travel is a money machine. That for some reason, the hospitality industry is literally just taking that potential revenue and tossing it out the window for the sake of what? Like literally, why? So with this information, I am starting this playlist to talk about accessibility within the travel industry. So I'm talking about hotels, I'm talking about destinations, I'm talking about cities, I'm talking about airports. Like there's so many, and mind you, accessibility isn't just for people who are disabled or chronically ill. If you wear glasses, if you broke your leg at some point, have you ever had like COVID? Do you know how that's going to affect you in the next 5 years? 2 years? 10 years? There's an aging population that is growing by the day. Like, we never know when we will need some help. Accessibility is all about giving help to everyone. And so it affects literally everybody. So I'm going to be talking more about this, what it looks like, my experience in this, because I've had a couple of very nice publications either written about me or that I have written. Nope, I wrote both of those pieces. So I will be talking about them because I'm starting to write more extensively about this topic for like Business Insider, for TripAdvisor, the works. So join me on this adventure. If you are also somebody that's a chronic illness or disability that wants to know more about travel, more about safe spaces to travel, ways or places to go to that I personally recommend, because whenever I go to a hotel or a destination, I'm always asking about accessible amenities. So I will share as much information as I possibly can with you guys. And if you have any questions, any places that you'd like for me to review, send them my way. For now, talk to you later. Bye, guys.